What's up, everybody? It's been a while. I really haven't had a chance to put a video together or even film one. I'm trying to get caught up on different customs. I'm putting out different shirts and it's just getting pretty busy. So there was a release of a retro coming out that I definitely wanted to make sure that I did a video on. I put a photo out on Twitter that showed one of the shoes done, and one of the things that I like to do with the customs, try to make some of them closer to what they should have been. Maybe it's closer to what the OG looked like, or just make it look better. And so this shoe that we're talking about that just released was the Jordan 5 Raging Bull. Now I've heard Raging Bull, Toro, whatever you want to call it. The problem is they had Ashy Larry on the design team for this shoe as well.
Ashy Larry, Marcy Projects, Marcy son, what?
So what's been really interesting about this release, it didn't get as much hate as the Reverse Flu Game 12s, even though the materials on it are absolutely identical. I mean, look, they're both just a kind of like an ashy red. It's like they're missing some dye, or I don't know. Now, I did put a question out on Twitter asking people why did they hate these so much, but they're showing these so much love. For me, that was a rhetorical question. I mean, I was genuinely curious of what everyone had to say, but for me, that's a rhetorical question because two reasons. Duh, the silhouette of the Jordan 5 is just so iconic. If it wasn't for the Jordan 1 silhouette, and I'll even go out on a limb and say this, the Jordan 5 silhouette is my favorite Jordan silhouette. Now, I am kind of partial to my Chicago 1s, number one, just because that's the originator. And then also the pair that I have that I got from my dad is pretty special. But I have wide, flat feet, and so the Jordan 5 is just perfect for my feet. Second, when they did this 12, there were 3 different reds on this shoe. You had the red suede from the upper, then you had a pair of red laces that were a different shade of red. And then you have this heel piece that is a different red than the upper and the shoelaces. I actually went ahead and took a pair of Reverse Flu Game 12s and matched the upper to the laces to the heel. But I'm gonna tell you, that was tough because once you got to that heel, I think I mixed 4 or 5 different color reds with pink to make that happen. And so that was just a lot of trial and error, and I finally got it to match, and those shoes have since sold on the website. But once I got my hands on these Raging Bull 5s, I mean, it's a beautiful shoe, even with the lighter colored suede. I like the suede. I'm becoming more and more of a fan of suede, but I wanted it to be a little bit more of a deep, rich red, like the OGs, kind of like not only did this retro deserve, but we all as Jordan brand consumers deserve. So what I wanted to do, I wanted to make this red a little bit deeper, a little bit more rich. I wanted them to look like they were worth that price jump to $190. Now I've already done one shoe, so I'll show you a little bit of the comparison now. As soon as I started to dye the shoe, one of the things I automatically knew was I wanted to put different laces in them. And these black laces from Lace Lab were just a perfect fit for them. And so I think that black kind of gives it just a little bit of a different look, but having that deeper red in there, I mean, it just makes it look so much better. I mean, look at the difference. So dyeing suede is always kind of finicky. How many coats do you put on it? What do you do to it first? What do you do to it after? Obviously, if you know a customizer, have them do it. If you're interested on taking on the task yourself, I'm gonna kind of show you how. So, what are you gonna need? First, oh, dang it. Where is it? Oh, it's over here. Get a suede brush. You're gonna brush the suede on the shoe, because what that's gonna do is gonna bring up the nap in the shoe, so that way you can get deeper down into the suede with the dye. So that way when you go to brush it after you're done, you wanna be able to see the activity in the suede. And that's gonna be another one of the reasons why we want to make this suede look a little bit deeper and richer. Second, you're gonna need some Angelus Red Suede dye. Now, a lot of people ask me, what is the difference between the suede dye and the leather dye? You're definitely going to want to use the suede dye on suede because It helps keep that suede soft so that way you can still brush it and still see the strokes in the suede. Leather dye isn't going to leave it as soft and your materials are going to firm up. You're going to need a dauber. So this little guy, what you're going to do is you're going to dip it into the dye. It's going to soak up the dye and you're going to be able to distribute the dye into the suede with this and brush it on. So I use this for the larger areas. You're gonna see that when I get to the corners and to the edges, I'm gonna stay away from them with this because even though this will suck up the dye and put the dye into the suede, the dye is gonna spread and you don't want this to get into places like the netting and the mesh because once you start dyeing that stuff, it's hard to get out. The good thing about suede dye is it's also a little bit more forgiving when it comes to hitting pieces like leather and your netting, your plastic. It just seems like it doesn't want to absorb as quickly as leather dye. However, you do not want to get this on anything else because it's still going to leave a little bit of shade of red. So if you're not comfortable just freehanding it, make sure that you put some tape over some of those edges around the outsole or midsole or your netting, just so you can try to protect those areas a little bit better. And a paintbrush. Now, Angelus has some awesome paintbrushes, but I don't want to waste them because once you start getting dye into your brushes, you don't want to use them for other things like painting with white or yellow because it's almost impossible to get 100% of the dye out of your brush. And so I try to find like an older brush or a brush that I want to use the red dye again, or something that I'm going to possibly end up throwing away. So we're going to use the brush to hit some of those corners and get the edges. Once we're done doing all the dye, we've hit it with the dauber, we've hit it with the paintbrush on the corners, you're gonna wanna let that set for a while, typically 24 hours. I'm gonna speed up the process using a heat gun, but then once I'm done letting it dry, I wanna go back and hit it with that suede brush. Number one, to make sure that all the suede dye is dry, because I obviously don't want to get it on anything else. But secondly, it helps make sure that everything is soaked in and you can kind of see the activity in the suede as you're brushing it. Then of course, to protect it, we'll finish it off with a little bit of Angelus water and stain repellent. Now I use this for pretty much everything. After I brush my teeth, just a little spritz in there, let that dry. All right. Let's dye.
Feel like a merry-go-round. Don't wanna stop, you see me worried. Too many secrets to be found. Would you still be here if I wasn't blurry? Focus on me. Can you focus on me? I'll be what you want if you show me what love is. This might be toxic, 'cause my truck is my oxygen. I just wanna feel what they all talk about. So lift me out of my coffin. Hesitance in your voice. Feel us slowly breaking at the core. Be your first choice if a prettier blonde knocked at your door.